Hi there, I'm Duncan Reed. I'm part of the team at Wonderborn Studios. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about junk media and your kids' digital diet. And over the next 18 minutes or so, we're going to take a look at, firstly, the pros and cons of how kids and young people are engaging with media in the digital age. And secondly, how we as parents and kids ministry leaders can respond. Hopefully, by the end of this seminar, you'll be a little bit more equipped to spot the difference between your digital junk food and your streaming superfood. Okay, first up, a little bit about myself and Wonderborn and why I'm here giving you this seminar. Wonderborn Studios is a media company that specialises in the production and distribution of family and educational content, both faith-based and in the mainstream. Some of the content we produce is family values content like the massively popular Baby Club on CBeebies, as well as Annie and the Band on CBBC. In the Christian space, biblical education is at the heart of what we do through entertainment. Shows like The Little Worship Company and God Rocks are both examples of high-quality Bible-based shows designed to teach, entertain, and engage kids using media. With media consumption in kids surging, last year the company decided to launch a platform to better equip the church in using media to teach the Bible. RaiseUPfaith.com is a curriculum and media platform created to resource youth and children's ministry with multimedia content and curriculum. It's designed to draw young minds and inspire young hearts, but more on Raise Up a little later. So why should churches use media at all? By the time the average young person is 18, they will have spent 35,000 hours on media, 9,000 hours in school, 2,500 hours engaging with their parents, and 900 hours in church. To put that another way, that's just under 4 years on media, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, versus just over 1 month in church. In 2018, an Ofcom report found that 36% of preschoolers play games online for nearly 6 hours a week. 8 out of 10 3 to 4 year olds use YouTube to watch cartoons and funny videos, and 52% are online almost 9 hours a week. This then scales upwards for tweens and teens. A recent report from Common Sense Media found that the average US tween spends 5 hours a day on social media for entertainment, going up to 7 hours for US teenagers. And that doesn't include the time they spend using screens for schoolwork. I mean, seriously, I don't know where they find the time. This isn't a talk about how we should limit screen time, and if so, how much is too much, and all those questions. That's for you and your family to work out. But as you'll find later on, a lot of modern content is designed and indeed fine-tuned to be as addictive as possible. And as with the food we eat, not all media is good for us physically or mentally. But is all media bad? As Christians, should we be engaging with it at all? Is there a biblical basis for the use of media? If we're going to engage in any conversation about how we, in our Christian communities, engage with media, then this has to be the starting point. Well, I believe that there is a theological basis for the use of media in supporting our children to learn more about God. I mean, for a starting point, the Bible is a piece of media. I mean, it's a book. It's the Word of God written down. If the epistles had been written down today, then Paul would probably have been writing them on, WhatsApp or on his blog. So if digital media is the storytelling medium of this generation, why should the church use it? If we turn to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 to 9, then we read, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign in your hand, and they shall be like frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates." So this Bible verse is showing us how we should share what is on our hearts about how amazing God is, and how we can use lots of different communication methods to do so. If God wants us to exhibit and broadcast things that we know to be true in places and spaces that are available to us, let's take a look at how the methods of communication have changed over the years in Christian history and how Christians have adapted and embraced new methods of communication to communicate the things that we know to be true. At the beginning of the nation of Israel, we're told how stories were passed from generation to generation. This verbal storytelling tradition, we can imagine this happening around a campfire. People would hear, learn, and repeat the stories that were integrally a part of their cultural bedrock. Then we learn about the Jewish people reading scrolls at meetings and in the temple. The stories that were told around the campfire are now refined, recorded, and committed to manuscript. By the 4th century, the use of images and iconography was important in the early church. Pictorial representations of the same stories were breathing new context and new life. In fact, it was Augustine of Hippo, who was born in AD 342, that first identified how words can be a signpost from the material into the unmaterial, that is, the spiritual. We've all experienced the power of words and pictures to reach deep into our hearts. This process is called semiotics and was the start of a different worldview of words being a direct link to the spiritual. You can describe words and images as the portal into the spiritual realm. The scrolls that we saw in the temple were then developed into one holy Bible, and about 1,000 years after Augustine was born, John Wycliffe, an English theologian and professor at Oxford University, translated the Bible into English. It is interesting to note that this act, which we're all so grateful for now, was considered a heresy by the Pope at the time. So much so that after he dies, John's body was dug up, burnt, and scattered in a river. It's not much of a reward. This does show, though, how sometimes we can be reluctant to take on new media. We haven't always been early adopters. We now move on to the use of multimedia, and we should know that the tradition of storytelling, repetition, games, and songs to teach children about the good news of Jesus remains the same over the years. It's the same message, but a different medium. God invites and compels us to use an evolving array of media to communicate the things that are on our hearts. So we can conclude that modern digital media in and of itself is not problematic. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't moderate our consumption of it. In fact, we definitely should. We should also learn to be discerning about what content we consume. If there's any truth in the adage, you are what you eat, it's also true to say, you are what you watch. More and more nutritional studies are finding that not all food calories are the same. And so it is with the media. Not all content calories are the same. Some energize, revitalize, and are life-giving. Others are momentary, like a momentary high, leading to an emotional slump, and they drain us physically, mentally, and spiritually. So back to our original premise, junk media and your kids' digital diet, and how to tell the difference between your digital junk food and your streaming superfood. What can junk food teach us about media? To help modern Christian parents and kids workers to tell the difference between digital donuts and algorithmic avocados, I did actually just say that, we've come up with 3 tests. The first test is this. Is content self-focused, addicting and distracting, or outward-looking, encouraging and freeing? Junk food tends to be high in sugar. Studies show that eating sugar releases opioids and dopamine into our systems. Dopamine is a known neurotransmitter and is a key part of what is known as our inbuilt reward circuit. This is the link between junk food, sugar, and addictive behavior. If we do something or eat something that causes the release of dopamine into our systems, then we feel a kind of high, and we're inclined to repeat the behavior in order to repeat the experience. Now, over time, the more we repeat these behaviors, our brain adjusts to release and releases less dopamine each time, meaning that the only way to experience the same high is to do it more. This is why we end up compulsively eating junk food. Some research suggests that sugar can be even more addicting than cocaine. Anyone familiar with the documentary The Social Dilemma will understand how social media platforms have design features baked in kind of things like infinite scroll, short form content, engagement notifications, likes, comments. All of these are derived from the gambling industry. Just like slot machines, these platforms are designed to keep people coming back for more. A new study from Harvard University demonstrates how social media lights up the same reward circuit that sugar does. Every notification, like, or mention triggers our a little dopamine hit. The infinite scroll of Facebook or Instagram provides an unlimited number of instant rewards for very little effort. The same study also showed that the reward centers of our brains are most active when we're talking about ourselves. In everyday life, apparently we talk about ourselves 30 to 40% of the time. On social media, it's about 80% of the time. No wonder we keep coming back to it. I know from my personal battles against Candy Crush and Angry Birds and YouTube rabbit holes and the habitual, checking of social media notifications, how hard it can be to escape the need for the next level, the next video, or the next like, the next dopamine hit. So, if content is short form, self-focused, and offers an instant but strangely unsatisfying hit, then it's probably junk media. By contrast, it then follows that when seeking out more nutritious content that feeds us physically, mentally, and spiritually, that we should be looking for longer form, outward-focused, informative content that has a clear end point. Test number 2. Is the content we're watching sugar-coated, or is it of substance and nourishing? Recently, a campaign group called Action on Sugar commissioned research into which was the most sugary drink you could buy on the high street. They found that a Starbucks hot mulled fruit grape flavour with chai, orange and cinnamon venti, that's a bit of a mouthful, contains a whopping 25 spoonfuls of sugar per serving. That's a mouthful as well. That's the same as an entire litre of Coke. The funny thing being that I guess it doesn't even taste that sweet because most of the sugar is counterbalanced by the natural bitterness of the chai. Now, thinking about junk media, have you come across the recent cultural phenomenon that is the TikTok life hack? Little short-form videos that give quick, easy and informative solutions to everyday problems. Some of them are pretty useful, like using bulldog clips on the side of your desk to help keep your power leads tidy. That's a pretty good one. But as this format has become more and more popular, content creators go after views and the associated advertising revenue by creating ever more ridiculous and outlandish hacks. They create videos that appear to be innovative, but fundamentally they just don't work and are pointless. They're misleading and in some cases just dangerous. Case in point, the grilled cheese sandwich hack, where you put it in a toaster, but the result is that your toaster catches fire. Or the video showing someone putting raw corn on the cob into a microwave and it coming out with popcorn. It's just not true. It's just nonsense. All of this content looks sweet, but ultimately it just has no substance. It has no truth. At the end of it, you come away feeling at best nonplussed or cheated, or at worst burning your house down. By contrast, Jesus never needs to be sugar-coated, and we don't have to coerce people into liking him. The pastor of my church, a chap called Chris, took a gap year before he went to university and worked as a cowboy on a cattle ranch in the middle of Australia. When he got there, he looked around and noticed that there were no fences, just red dirt, blue sky, and hundreds of miles of outback in every direction. He asked them how they stopped the cows from just wandering off, and their reply was, well, it's easy. We just put a well in the middle. They knew that the cows would always come back to the source of the water that gives them life. They didn't need to coerce them with fences or keep them coming back. They just trusted that the cows knew to keep returning. Isn't that the same for us? As Christians, we always return to Jesus because there's nothing so genuinely good, genuinely sweet as him and his character. I think Jesus knew this. We read in Matthew that he said, "Let the little children come to me and don't hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." The children didn't need to be coerced to be with Jesus. They already knew that they wanted to be with him. In fact, it was the adults there who were getting in the way. And so it is with our kids and content. Junk content is that which looks sweet but ultimately tastes bad and has no substance. With streaming superfood, we can taste and see that it's good. It's great tasting and good for us. Finally, test 3. What does it do to us? And are we active or passive as we engage with it? So Chris Van Toolen, on his recent BBC documentary, What Are We Feeding Our Kids?, talked about how food companies engage in extensive and expensive research to develop food to be both incredibly delicious and easy to digest. So it tastes and feels good in your mouth, and it also gets to your stomach as quickly as possible, leaving you reaching for the next one. This means that ultra-processed food is both higher in calories and encourages us to eat more, and it's also easier to eat. Literally, it's designed so that you have to spend less time chewing. And that leads to a double whammy as you both eat more calories and expend fewer calories eating and digesting it. Research has shown that eating too much processed food can promote inflammation in the body, which can be a trigger for depression. Van Toolen also demonstrated in his documentary that eating a diet high in ultra-processed food actually changed neural pathways in the brain, creating responses typical to those expected, as you've already seen in test 1, in people taking known addictive substances like cigarettes, alcohol, and drugs. And so, as it is with junk food, it is with junk media. Research from the University of Pennsylvania found that when use of social media was limited to 10 minutes a day, that this led to a significant reduction in loneliness and depression. Likewise, UCL found that where people use social media for 5 hours or more per day, so your average American teenager, that 38% showed signs of having severe depression. If you want to dig a little deeper on how media can affect the mental health of our young people, then we've got a white paper that we've created in partnership with the Lily Joe Project. You can download it as a free resource from RaiseUPfaith.com. It's called Being Not Doing, the Church, Young People and Mental Health. And we look into how children's ministry leaders can respond to the mental health challenges of young people in the digital age. So a common feature across both junk food and junk media is the passivity with which we engage with it. We passively consume junk food, literally spending less energy eating. And we passively consume media as it is served up to us in an endless path of up next and infinite scrolls. But at the same time, a study by the Canadian Pediatric Society shows us that quality and interactive media actually helps children from as young as 2 to develop language and literacy skills. It fosters aspects of cognitive development and it helps young people to retain taught information. So when we're trying to decide how healthy a piece of content is, we can consider, does it encourage an active participation, or is it designed to be passively experienced? Now, obviously, it's not a binary choice, and nor there is always an objective answer to whether the media we're engaging with is junk media or streaming superfood. In reality, it's a sliding scale and subjective. Finally, it's worth considering where it's coming from, who's providing it. In the same way that you wouldn't expect to get steamed broccoli from a candy floss machine, we shouldn't expect to get our streaming superfoods from platforms that are designed to addict and distract us. We need to search out content providers that curate and create streaming superfoods. Which brings us to Raise Up. Raise Up is a brand new curriculum and multimedia platform that is created to resource youth and children's ministry leaders with multimedia content and curriculum. It's designed to draw young minds and inspire young hearts. If you're involved in kids or youth ministry in your church, then this bit's for you. And if you're not, well, it's still for you, as you can take a look and pass on this new tool to the kids worker in your church. We're a brand new, fresh out of the box resources platform with ambitious plans where you'll discover a constantly growing collection of some of the world's best kids ministry content. With over 250 lessons and 800 pieces of media and content, and growing from the likes of Little Worship Company, Spring Harvest Big Start, and God Rocks and Treasure Champs, to name a few. This summer you'll also find brand new content from the likes of LZ7, New Wine, and Taylormation, as well as the exciting new God Rocks dance craze. With so much on the site, you're guaranteed to find the right content for any ministry moment. We believe that by working together with local kids ministry leaders and by equipping churches with a constant stream of world-class Christ-centered content, that we'll see young lives impacted.
You want to see the kids in your church living inspiring lives that are rooted in Jesus. That's why we're introducing RaiseUPfaith.com, a brand new resource platform designed to equip youth and children's ministry leaders with high-quality multimedia Bible-based curriculum content. Whatever your situation, we've got you covered. Find out for yourself with a free, no-obligation 14-day trial. Sign up now at RaiseUPfaith.com.
Our vision is to resource the church to reach children and young people and to raise up faith in the next generation. So thank you for your time. We hope you feel a bit more equipped to know the difference between your junk media and your streaming superfood. We'll see you soon on RaiseUpfaith.com.